too bright.
No, it's fine.
Bright lights are getting to you now.
Oh, that's fighting talk.
So Dev's fresh out of Canada. You were there for the fights live for Dricus and Sean Strickland. Tell me about the experience when you heard and knew. What emotions did you feel? Like, what was that in terms of like, what was the first thing that you thought of being like the first South African to win and bring back a title?
I don't know. I think it was, wow. There were so many emotions that were going on. There was relief that that he had won the fight. There was relief that we had finally achieved it. There was this euphoria to see that happen. Obviously, in a time that is like now, it's current.
Yeah.
For us to eventually see a South African get to that level, and especially have been so intertwined in the process and the build up
Yeah.
and the build of the sports in the country, it was incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, I think at one stage I even cried. And it was just such a powerful moment. There was just so much in it.
Yeah.
It's really difficult to explain how the emotions affected me, but it was probably one of the greatest moments in my time in the sport.
Yeah, especially as someone who's obviously fought in the UFC, like what it takes, or like you've seen like the work that needs to be put in terms of getting to that spot. So yeah, and also like having even fought Dricus, like do you feel like it was a surprise for you that he won, or you just knew it was coming all this time?
No, look, I mean, I've always said if there's anybody that can get to that level, it's him.
Sure.
Even from when I first fought him, I just knew there was something special about him.
Yeah.
And he's shown that every time. Look, you don't get there by chance. It's not just something that magically happens. You have to work for that opportunity. His work ethic and discipline towards his craft is quite remarkable. And the fact that he's now world champion is just an exceptional thing. I don't think people understand what you have to do or the level you have to be at to be crowned, to be crowned, the champion of the world. But again, I go back to it's what he's put in over his career and his discipline and his desire and the work ethic and just the exceptional athlete that he is that it got it to this place. So I wasn't surprised. It's not a surprising thing at all. I've always believed that he was the guy that was going to do it. And then, the times that I have spent with him, just reinforced that. It made it stronger. It made that belief stronger, knowing what he was capable of. Obviously, traveling the world and being around the best fighters in the world and seeing what they were and what they were capable of and how they performed, and then just seeing the same from him, it just shows you where he is. And I still believe there's not many fighters in the world that are like Dricus. He just poses so many different questions to his opponents. He just brings a completely different dynamic. He cemented those reasons over the course of his career.
Yeah, and I mean, like you also see it in terms of like, well, you hear it when they say like he's so awkward in there. He's like, you just don't know, and like how powerful he is, how strong he is. Like it's just something that they haven't seen before. Like no one has ever seen in terms of like they're in the UFC. Like we heard this with Whittaker, we heard this with Darren Till. But you felt that. Obviously in training with him and also having fought him. But what you think in terms of like the work that they're putting in there by CIT? Like, because I mean, like now we have Cameron, we have Dricus, we have Mark Hume who's also going to be breaking into the UFC. Like the work that they're putting in there by CIT is crazy.
So I mean, look, Morneau's an exceptionally bright man. He's extremely focused to his task. He just also has a different mentality about how he goes about his work. He's also 100% invested in his students and giving them the best opportunity to be successful.
Yeah.
He gives them that life. He gives them that support. He makes sure that they have everything that they need to go out and do the job. they also have the same mindset. You know, there's a group of athletes there that have the same mindset. They have the desire and the want to be successful.
As a
and
unit,
then when you put that combination together, you can only get success.
Dang.
But again, rule number one of being successful anywhere in life, it's hard work. And their work ethic is really unmatched at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, like you see it, like I don't think it's any by luck or by fluke in terms of like 3 athletes are going to break into the UFC and like all coming from the same gym, you know? And obviously credit to Coach Mornay Fisser there. But yeah, which rounds did you have Dricus fight, or are you? Because I mean, like obviously there's controversy in terms of like how he won the belt, or like did he even deserve it? Did you see it? Obviously, like he's gonna clinch it.
So
like watching it live.
So I mean, I definitely had him winning rounds 2, 3, and 4, and I think that's a lot of what the pundits and you know, people who've been in the game a long time, I think that's what everybody saw.
Yeah.
Rounds 1 and 5 are questionable. They were super tight.
Yes.
I mean, so it could have been a 5-0 to Dricus. It could be 3-2. You know, it's kind of all up in the air. But again, that's the story. I mean, you can never leave it to the judges. You need to make sure that you are convincing in the way that you went about it. You go about your work, and you've got to be in control, and you've got to have the desire to win. And that's the difference between the 2 athletes on the night. Sean Strickland did an exceptionally good job to manage the fight defensively. His defensive patterns were remarkable, and he utilized such an effective tool that doesn't get utilized enough in the jab. But in that, he became super defensive, and there wasn't a lot of attacking effort that came from him. You could see that he kind of didn't want to take the chances. He wanted to keep it as tight as possible and kind of win it on the judge's scorecard. But again, that shows you can't leave it there. Dricus was just super effective in everything that he did. He pushed the pace. He was always attacking. He changed the game up. There was head kicks. There was combinations. There was takedowns. There was cage control. So he used the full program. He used the full aspect of MMA to show his skills. You know, again, also for him, it's a world title fight. He's in that position.
It's now or never.
It's now or never. He wants to win. So, for me, it felt he was kind of reserved in what you would normally get out of Dricus. He still was the same animal that was in there, but the pedal was just a little bit slower. He controlled himself for 5 rounds, and you know, and everybody questioned his gas tank, and he just got stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. Look, I don't think that the result was wrong. I think the result is 100% true. Just how you see the results is kind of the question.
Yeah, I also had him for rounds 2, 3, and 4. Like no debate. Like I mean, I wasn't shocked in terms of like it being a split decision, because I could also see like Sean winning, I guess, 1 and 5, and also like in terms of like I just expected, like I expected it, and knew, like I don't see the controversy in terms of like, oh, Dricus shouldn't have won that fight, or wah, you know. But yeah, credits to him, and like he did say like, yo, he's gonna push for everything, like a world title in terms of like the UFC is like something that he's always dreamed of. But yeah, like it's really crazy. Like, so now how do you see it affecting or like impacting the scale in terms of MMA, South African MMA now? Because we even heard Dana saying like, yo, he's trying to, like, Dricus might be the man who's like coming through for him in UFC Africa.
So I think it's kind of a massive changing point for the sport on a global platform, because Africa becomes super accessible, and it's an area that they still haven't controlled, UFC. But it does a lot of things. I mean, if you just take the first point, you take Dricus for himself, and he was a young South African boy who had a dream. He gave everything that he possibly could to that, the desire, the want, the discipline. You know, he put himself in a position where he's become a role model to youngsters and to our people out there, and a lot of South Africans, to show that no matter what the circumstances are, no matter where you are in life, where you come from, if you have a dream and you give everything to that, it's possible.
It's true.
What he's done is just there's no words to explain what he's achieved for himself.
The magnitude of it.
And I think he's still going to have to process that as well, and get to grips with that and understand that he's now the king of the world. He's now the best fighter in the world.
185.
It's the most remarkable thing that he's achieved. And knowing, because I was there,
Yeah.
and knowing what that platform is and how big it is and the scale and what it takes, man, he's elevated himself to a level that not many people can understand. In terms of MMA in this country, it just solidifies everything that's been done over the last 15 years by a lot of people to create a platform where these guys can come through, they can fight on the continent, they can make the next progression to get into the UFC, because that was a possibility that was shown. And then now with him going to the next step, when you get there, it's the possibility of I can be champ because somebody's done it already.
Yeah, I've seen it happen. Yeah.
I've seen it happen.
Yeah.
So if he can do it, then I can do it myself.
Yeah.
It gives value. It opens the eyes of the country as well to something that I think had a certain stigma. It had this catapult, and then it kind of de-escalated, and now it's just going to be on this rise again because we have something to be proud of. We have somebody who's there, who's doing it, who's representing the country, and from South Africans, I think, live in this world of sort of oppressed world, and this feeling of we don't have what it takes to take on the world. You know, we've been in an environment where we're constantly fighting losing battles, and we don't see the victories. You know, and he alluded it so much to the Springboks and what they achieved, and becoming the world champions again, and winning for consecutive
back-to-back
terms. And you know, now he as an individual, you know, that's a team sport. Now that was a team thing. So as a team, we can get there.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden, as an individual, we can do it.
Yeah.
And it gives hope, and it gives encouragement, and it just shows us as a country, man, we are exceptional people, and that we can do anything we put our minds to, and we've got to stop living in a way where we feel like we're not capable of going to
limiting ourselves.
Yes. Yeah. You know, we stop limiting ourselves. You got to open the door and you got to run through it.
Shoo. Damn, in terms of also with now even hearing at the gym, I was having a chat with Jaden in terms of he also wants to be get into MMA, and he wants to fight in the UFC, you know. So that's literally what he said. Now it's not even a thing of okay, cool, I want to start with the local promotion and then go to, it's just yo, straight, I want to go into the UFC. So in terms of people who have gyms, how does that now change with the impact of what's about to happen, I guess?
So I think it's like any sport. It's kind of I wouldn't say a cultural thing. It's kind of it is, because in gyms you create a culture, and people buy into that culture, and that's why they stay, and that's why they come, and that's why they invest. But you know, MMA was always on the fringes, as rugby, soccer, cricket. Those were the kind of sports that people played because it's got a long history. It's got success in it. It's shown that you can be something. You can make a career out of it. You can make a living out of it. You can also build a massive life out of it. Whereas it was kind of still taboo, MMA, gym, you know,
Bloody,
it did it. You know, people were very drawn to it, but they're also very reserved and frightened by what the environment is. What he's done is he's opened the eyes of the country, he's opened the eyes of the continent to say, well, hang on, you know, he has a kid from Hearties who stuck to his guns. He's done everything he said he was going to do.
To the T.
You know, to the T. We have the expertise. I think that's also another side of it, is that he elevated himself to a platform where he's the world champion, but he needed the support, he needed the coaching, he needed the training partners and that to get him there. It gives the other gyms the confidence to say, well, we do have the skill set, we do have the mindset, we do have the ability to train good fighters, to train people to get to the next level. You know, I think we've made up the ground on the rest of the world, and by him being world champion, it shows the distance that we've gone. It also gives us learning blocks. It gives us where we can take from and understand as coaches, and we can see what other coaches are doing and how does that develop in the gym, and how do you build the confidence. It's also the excitement. People are excited about the fact that we've got a world champion. Oh, MMA, I want to be involved in that. I want to see it. The sponsors, the community, the MMA community grows now because there's more fans that have been brought in. Because there's a lot of attention around the world. It brings in fans from other countries and other spaces in the world, and people are now focused on Africa and focused on what's happening there. So it does a lot. The game changes completely.
It's crazy. And also to be part of that is insane. And also to watch it unravel and also being part of it, But yeah, I've always said, for me, if I were to do MMA, I feel like this would be the best gym to start at, And obviously you have Coach Titanium. Obviously we have the legend Soulja Boy, for me, it's in terms of, let's get into you now, in terms with your journey and all of that. Coming out from Durban, how did you? What made you first? Because also you tried a lot. You tried rugby also. You were involved in rugby, but ultimately fighting. How does that happen?
Yeah, and I don't know. I suppose from a religious belief, and you believe in God and stuff like that. You believe that your life is predestined for you, and that there's a journey and there's a purpose to what you're doing.
Sure.
I was sure about my journey at stages. Then I was very unsure. Then I was sure. Then I was unsure. Then I knew this is my direction. So it's a lot of ebbs and flows, ups and downs, and it's just about staying the course and understanding that there's a plan for you, and that you if you stick to what you started, you will always get results. And no matter the walls and the mountains that you come in front of you, you'll find a way to get past them and to carry on. My journey was, I always wanted to be a professional sportsman. I was an exceptionally good cricket player, and kind of my parents and the people around me thought that was the direction that I was going to go.
Books weren't your thing.
Yeah, but I didn't. I wanted to play rugby, and I tried to make it as a rugby player, and obviously that didn't work out the way that I wanted it to. But in that, it brought me into MMA. Martial arts has been in my life since I was 9. I've always done martial arts, but it was never something for me. It was kind of just something I did to learn to defend myself and help me with discipline and those kind of things. It was only until I got into MMA and I put the effort in, and I started to grind it, and it started to work, and I started to get results out of it, and I started to see a change in me as a person, and the pillars that it started to build in my life, that I started to hunt it more and hunt it more and hunt it more. I didn't know what the journey was going to be. Back then it was intense. It was in underground garages and smaller events.
It wasn't as developed.
Yeah, it was 100 people, sometimes 50 people, and there was no real structure to the way we were fighting, and kind of the control systems around it was a little bit backwards and very backyard, and we just went at it. And I said to myself, this was my last opportunity to be a professional at something. It might not have been the large scale journey that I thought. It might not have been playing for the Springboks and those massive moments. But it was still being a professional, and that I could have that in the bank. And I just went at it, and I gave everything of myself. I decided that if this was what I was doing, I was going to leave it all out there. I was going to take nothing for chance. I was going to give 150% of myself every single time, and that's what I did.
Sure.
And as I did that, and as I
started seeing the
I grinded, the doors started to open, and the platform started to grow. And the more that I went through, I just elevated, and I just kept pushing for excellence, and I kept trying to find better ways to improve myself, and not only as a fighter, but just as a person, and as a role model, and as a platform for sponsorship. And I tried to tick all the boxes and make sure that every box was in the right place. And that obviously just catapulted me, and it just grew and grew and grew and grew. And the journey was exceptional. Like, never in my wildest dreams did I ever believe that it was going to get to the scale that it did. And I always said to myself, and I always said to people around me, I'm going to fight in the UFC, and people laughed and joked, and it was kind of like,
for real?
Yeah, you know, it was kind of like, oh, UFC, that's a little bit far-fetched, and I never lost faith in that. You know, I always believed that was possible, and I think through the work ethic and how I presented myself and the things that I did, it opened that opportunity up, and to achieve that was remarkable. I mean, the journey was incredible. I traveled the world. I've met the most incredible people.
Sure.
I've been to the most incredible places. I've experienced life on the most
greatest skill ever in the world.
It was just like, I mean, life was just available, and it was amazing. And you know, and then that is when you're the front runner and you're learning, you know, or you're setting the path. You're the guy that takes the fall. You know, you're the guy that makes the mistakes. You're the guy that teaches people how what not to do. And journey was difficult at stages as well. I mean, I had a lot of hardships and trials and tribulations, and you know, I saw the highest of the highs and I saw the lowest of the lows as well. I mean, I climbed the mountain and I fell down the other side, but it taught me everything that I know today. It's taught me everything that I need to be successful. It gave me the opportunities that I have at my hands now. You know, stepping from being a professional fighter into the business world, and you know, obviously
to where you're at now.
So you know, opening a gym, and you know what that takes, and it's also about learning how to surround myself with the right people and make sure that I have people around me that buy into the same visions and want the same things and have the same desires. And it's all about creating an easy flow of things and not having to hit the walls all the time. You know, you want to make sure that the river runs easily.
Like, let's talk about in terms of like now, since you mentioned in terms of like surrounding yourself with like people who also believe in the same vision. Linking up with Coach Kwan from, I guess, FFM at the time, and like fighting at EFC 1, you know, in terms of, what was that like in terms of like, you guys coming together and fighting in this new organization? Was the vision always there from that time, or like did it come with the progression in the fighting in the EFC?
Well, there was always a vision. I mean, the vision for me was I wanted to be the best at whatever I do. I wanted to be the best at it. And you know, I've been very fortunate in my career. I've been surrounded by some incredible coaches, and every coach has played a role in me as a person and given me something. Richie Kwan was my leader and was the guy that gave me a platform to express myself. He brought the technical aspect to it. He gave me the knowledge that I needed to develop my fighting skills. There was a brotherhood there. There was an incredible team that did exceptional things for MMA in this country. They were the guys that built the platform and opened up the doors and made other coaches look harder at themselves and develop themselves more. And then, you know, then obviously from there CRT came along, and they're the guys that took over from FFM and have taken it to the next level. So everybody played their part. Everybody's had a role to play in MMA as a whole. There's a lot of guys who bled for the sport. They might not have been as successful as what I was, but they played their part. They gave to the sport, and they gave the journey value and direction. You know, and you need those guys. You need to have those people around to make sure that something is successful.
So boom, you climb the top of the mountain in the EFC, you get to be a champion, then you come across Smith in your title defense, and then that doesn't go your way. How does that feel in terms of like now having to rebuild, and what does that do in terms of like now your confidence and like just how in terms of rebuilding?
Yeah, I think it was an important loss for me because it made me recheck myself.
It's true.
It made me I think I was on this massive catapult. It was just this rocket was going, and you know, in that, you know, you can become arrogant, you can become lazy, you can also think you're untouchable, and you know, no one's untouchable. You have to keep progressing yourself. You can also feel stagnated. You can feel like you've stalled. I've had many wars with different fighters that brought out different things in me. Jeremy was this guy who was fearless and destructive in everything that he did, and I kind of felt that I had that fight and I was winning, and obviously then I lost it, and I got caught because I made a mistake. It taught me that you can't make mistakes, because if you make mistakes you're going to get punished. You also can't be too lazy, because I was lazy on the shot and I got caught in that. So it showed me that you have to be perfect all the time inside there, and you have to be laser focused in everything that you do. It brought out a lot of different questions. It posed a lot of questions to me, and I was able to answer them. I was able to reinvent myself and redevelop myself, and I think it was a massive stepping stone in my career.
So who would you say, in terms of like now, who would you say has played or like has been the pillar in terms of like getting you focused in times that you're low, like, like during those times, like at your lowest, in terms of rebuilding you? Would you account it to one person? Like, was it was a bunch of people?
No, look, I think it was everywhere. I mean, it was in my coaches, it was in my training partners, it was in my family, my wife, it was in my parents, it was in my friends that were around me. Everybody had a role. Everybody gave me a different outlook on what was happening. And then it's about taking that information and processing and utilizing what you want to utilize, and making sure that what you're looking at is, how do I become better? How do I improve? How do I get more out of what I'm taking? You can never think that you know everything or you've done enough, because you've never done enough. There's always more to do. There's always more. And if you have that open mind that you can redirect yourself and change and add and become more complete, and I did it everywhere. It was in my rehabs, it was in my strength and conditioning, it was in my sleep patterns, it was in my food, it was in my mental coaches, it was in my training partners and how I got the best out of them as well. It was in my coaches, I got the best out of them. My family, how were they at home, their support systems. I just made sure I was constantly pushing the boundaries everywhere that I could.
Yeah, like, so tell me in terms of like the importance of that, especially with the family aspect, because obviously you're probably like always at the gym for the most part. I remember even Jen telling me like, we do this like 3 times or 2 times in a week, or like you had to be there like 7 times in a day, so like how does that work in terms of like having to be away from family for the most part? So
fighting is an incredibly selfish thing, in that a fighter has to be 100% for himself. If you want success in this, it's all about you.
Dang.
And it's a really difficult concept to understand for people, and it can pose a lot of problems. It's a difficult journey on your family, because they take the brunt of a lot of things: the tiredness, the sore, the anger, the emotions, the frustrations. They in the battlefield with you. They're on the front line, and you need to make sure that there's unity in your family. Otherwise, it can be very difficult on your family, and it can put a lot of strain.
Yeah.
I traveled a lot. I was away from my family a lot. My son, for the first 18 months of his life, I didn't see him.
Dang.
I saw him on a screen. It's hard, and then my wife having to be at home, and she's having to look after and support the kids, and she's alone. That's also very difficult, on her, and having to be that support system. It's a fine line of getting it right. You're walking a tightrope, and it's very easy to fall off.
Yo, that is okay. Yeah, I never thought about it in that way. In terms of like now, there's special moments in terms of like that you'd have to miss out because like you have a fight or you're in training camp. Yeah, that must be difficult. So in terms of that's the personal family. So the family at the gym, I know that's also where like Coach Titanium was also at FFM now.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, so that's where you met essentially. How was that in terms of like forming that partnership and even leading to where you guys are business partners now?
Well, I mean, like you were saying, it's like 7 days a week. I mean, that's what I was putting anything between 6 and 10 hours a day on the mat. I mean, these are people that you spend all day, every day with.
It's true.
You bleed with them. You fight with them.
Blood, sweat, and tears.
You cry with them. I mean, people, the emotions that you get angry, and these are the guys that are there for you to pick you up.
Yeah.
When you're down, they're the ones that are carrying you through those moments. They're giving you that spark. They're giving you that desire. When you're flat and you don't have anything more, they're the ones that are picking you up and saying, "Hey, you got this." You know, it just becomes like a knitted jersey that just tightens. The wool tightens as you build that jersey, and it just gets stronger and stronger and stronger. You know, and they see the best and the worst of you. You know, they understand you implicitly. You can't hide anything from them.
They know you for every aspect of you.
And in that journey, there's certain relationships that stay. There's certain relationships that break because obviously you just can't find that attachment to each other. You know, Sean and I, we've had a long-standing relationship. We've supported each other over our careers. We've been there for each other, and we've developed, and we have a very close relationship, and we understand each other. You know, we've got an incredible understanding of each other because of what we've been through and what we've had to experience together on the mat, off the mat. You know, the crying, the picking up, the coaching, the developing,
turmoil, everything.
The turmoil, and we've just been able to stay solid and honest with each other through that journey, and that built a good partnership, and that's why we've been able to, you know, open. And we previously had a gym, and it didn't work out the way that we wanted to, and we opened our second one, and through life and gaining knowledge and experience and growth and maturity, we've been able to find a perfect mixture that's given an incredible platform for a lot of people to come in and learn and find themselves.
Like it's been I guess it's been like a journey in itself in terms of going from fighter to like now being coaches, and the both of you guys. And obviously the relationships built at the time throughout the journey. And like one that also I feel like is one to touch on is your relationship with Wade, because I mean that's also someone you fought, lost to and won. So you guys are 1-1. How was that been in terms of like training with him now and like also like getting to where you guys are at having fought?
Yeah, look, I mean, that was another great battle. Wade, I fought pre-EFC. And Wade was the top guy at that stage, and I lost to him. And then, obviously, coming back into the EFC, you want that revenge, you want that thingy, and he was the guy that I had my eyes on, and, you know, he was a driving force and my desire.
Yeah.
And, I managed to get that battle, and I managed to win that battle. When you go to war with somebody to the scale that we went to, you can only have respect for that person. And, Wade was pretty much like me after I left the FFM. I was a drifter and I didn't really know where I belonged. And it was a space where I was struggling to find my own self and my own purpose. And, he was in that space as well. And together we just found this connection and we've grown and progressed. And, now he's on the mats with me, and now he's part of our team, and he's part of our coaching staff, and he's one of my friends. And, I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful to have that with him. I'm grateful to have that story. And it's the same with Dricus. Dricus and I were mortal enemies, and then that changed and it progressed. And I started training with him, and it kind of became this training partner. And then a good friendship has developed, and we now have that respect of each other as friends, and we can talk about fighting, and I can give me his opinion, and I can give my thoughts on things, and he can take it and he can use it. And the same with Wade. I mean, people don't really understand what the sport takes and what it takes out of you, and what is needed. And to have the people who've been through that journey and understand it and have seen the highs and lows of it around you, there's a bond. There's it's almost like your souls are entwined. When you go to war with somebody, pieces of your soul stay together.
Yeah, and only you guys understand what it takes to get there and like to eventually be in that hexagon or octagon, In terms of like having that, and like you've obviously climbed the top of the mountain in the EFC, and even fought like young up and comers like your JP Krugers. How do you now see the landscape in the EFC or South African MMA? Where do you think we're at?
No, look, I still believe UFC is one of the best platforms to fight in, to develop yourself before you get to the UFC. There's an incredibly strong list of fighters. I think the circuit is very strong. You test yourself. I mean, people don't realize it's Africa. I mean, in Africa we built hard. We understand things differently, you know what I mean? Because it's a fight for survival continuously on a daily basis, everywhere.
Yeah.
And fighting is in our nature, it's in our blood. When you get into the EFC platform, you might be more skilled than a guy in front of you, but he's willing to fight you to the death.
No.
To elevate himself. You know, he also doesn't have a lot. You know, this is his chance to be something, you know, and he's investing everything into that. We're very fortunate that we have such a strong circuit, and I think with, you know, now with Dricus elevating himself to the next level, and hopefully the Israel and Dricus fight takes part, because that's a pure African battle, you know, and then that's going to ignite the continent more and desire more, and it's going to give people the want to be more, and the belief that they can be there by seeing two Africans fighting for a title. I mean, that's an amazing
big
thing.
on itself,
It's in itself, that is just it's worldly. There's some very exciting things coming with EFC, and that platform's going to change, and that platform's going to escalate and develop and become more. And a lot of the guys in the industry, the promotions, the refs and judges and the competitors were battle worn, and there was, you know, we were plugging away, and success was coming, but it was coming slowly. You know, now that Dricus has all of a sudden become the world champion,
The boost is...
all of a sudden it just gives you that boost that everybody's excited, they're rejuvenated. They see now that everything that's been put in has been worth it.
Devs.
Because we've got the ultimate prize. There's a fighter who came from South Africa, who came through the South African platform, that is now an African platform, you know, came through that space, trains in the country, learns in the country, coached in the country, his partners are from the country, and he can reach that ultimate goal. It gives everybody that's involved in every aspect this thing of like, we did it. We played our part. We were part, whether it's small, whether it was big, whether it was indirect influence, whether it was a direct influence, there was something that you gave to make sure that as a country we showed we're capable of achieving it.
Like, do you understand the legend that you are in the sport? Like, do you understand the magnitude that you have played in terms of like building the sport to what it is now?
I think it's been very questionable for me over the years. I've questioned it a lot. What has been my role? What was my purpose? You know, obviously my vision was different. My vision was to get to the UFC and be one of the best fighters in the world. And, you know, I had the belief in myself that I could be within the top 5 in the world. I knew I could be there. I knew I had the skills. I knew I had the desire. I knew I had the direction. That there was no question in that. You know, and then my thought pattern was, if I get there, then the championship becomes a realistic thing. You know, unfortunately, the journey didn't take that path, and it went in a different direction. And that posed a lot of questions to me. I mean, it opened, there was a lot of wounds in it. There was a lot of heartache. There was a lot of desperation. I questioned what my role was, what was my purpose in it. And, you know, with Dricus becoming the world champion, I found my purpose in that. I found that I understood that
it wasn't necessarily for you, but
it wasn't
to build someone.
It wasn't necessarily mine. It wasn't mine to have. It was his. But I played a part in getting that direction, and I added value to a system that ultimately gave him the opportunity to hold the biggest prize. And you know, whatever that determines, whatever label that gives me, you know, that's what it is. What it is. You know, I had like I said, I had an incredible career. I lived my dream for myself. I was able to do things that were unthinkable, and I take a lot of pride in that, and I take a pride in what it gave other people around me, and what it gave the organization. And obviously now that knowledge that I have and what I have at my fingertips to give that to other people and help develop people and find themselves. And, you know, the world is a very tricky place. It can break you very easily. You feel like you're carrying weights on your feet and you're trying to paddle to stay up a lot of the time. And you don't feel like you're free. And I do believe that martial arts gives people a completely different aspect. It gives them discipline. It gives them confidence. It gives them direction. Shows them what they're capable of. It tests them in ways they wouldn't have known.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, and these are all questions that can be answered. And you see people when they come in and how unsure they are about themselves, and they're not quite as confident as what they want to be, and they have a lot of these questions. And as they progress, they're answering these questions, and you see the life come into them, and you see how they carry themselves and the confidence they have. You know, every man's desire is to be able to protect himself. Not necessarily he wants to be out there fighting and starting wars for whatever the case. But he knows that if the war comes to him, he can take care of himself. And just in that can give a man complete confidence.
Can change their whole outlook now. Yeah, that's crazy to like see the progression, and even seeing it with myself, you know, having joined the gym and seeing what it takes, and even like things that I didn't even necessarily think that I'd have to be faced with, you know, and having to deal with them on the mats, you know. It's really one to get into, like, even if it's not a thing of like you're trying to fight, as you said, but like just to have the skill set for yourself as a person or as an individual. So like now, in terms of like what's your relationship with the guys at the EFC? I mean, because obviously you commentate there at times, and also like I saw you partying with Graham at the at the after party. So how's your relationship with the guys?
Yeah, look, I have a great relationship with him. I've always had a mutual respect right through my career. You know, I always was able to speak my mind and express myself with them, and they were always open to listening.
Sure.
Together, we always came up with the best solution for not only for me but for the sport and the direction it wanted to go. And that stayed there all along. You know, I try not to be. I don't want to be in the front. I don't want to be the guy. You know, I want to play a role, and I try and give the best of myself everywhere that I can. And you know, I think people are grateful for that. And you know, again, if I show them the respect, they show me the respect. And I'm here for the sport. I just want to see the sport achieve what it should achieve, and earn the respect that it should.
Nah. Do you when you look back, do you have any regrets in your career? Because I also not that it is a regret, but like I've heard you say that by the time you got to the UFC, like you were on the older side in your age. So do you have any regrets in terms of like you should have zigged when you zagged? Like, do you have any?
You know, it's quite a tough question, because I mean, you never want to walk around with regret. You want to say that you gave everything of yourself, and the outcome was the outcome. Could we have done things better? Probably. Could we have done things differently? Definitely. But the results are the results, you know. I mean, we can't go back now. You can't change the past. They are what they are. I don't regret anything.
Sure.
I gave the best of myself, and you know, I still achieved the unthinkable, you know, and that's massive for me. And I think I just needed to understand that concept. You know, beforehand, if you'd asked me 3 or 4 years ago, I would have told you, yeah, I have many regrets, you know. But now that I look at it now, I don't regret anything. You know, I know that we could have done differently, and I know that we could have done things better, but that's hindsight.
It is what it is. No.
It is what it is.
And it was supposed to plan out the way it is, especially if you believe in God and like the path that you have, it's predetermined, like it's already outlined for you. So let's talk about the I guess the plans for the gym and like the growth of the gym as a gym owner in the MMA scene. Do you have any, like, what can you tell us in terms of like where we're trying to take 8292?
Yeah, look, I mean, for us, I just wanted to create my own home in the beginning. I just wanted my own space where I could train and be happy and comfortable, and just do what I love to do. I mean, I love martial arts, and I love expressing myself, and it's a massive pillar in my life. I mean, it gives me stability and direction and focus, and I was kind of bouncing around and training in different places, and which was cool. It was fulfilling to a certain level, but I always said I will own a gym, and I said I would open a gym at the right time. I said for me the gym was never a space where I needed to go and earn a living, and now I needed to pay the bills and that, because it just adds a different type of pressure to the game, and a lot of stress. I wanted it to be a stress-free place, and gratefully I'm in the position where I can have a gym and don't need anything from it, which has given me more life, and it's opened up doors for me, and then my partnership with Shauna and how we see things, we see things exactly the same, and she wants the same out of the gym as what I want. We want to be able to practice martial arts, but we also want to develop people. We want to give people the opportunity, like I said, to find themselves and express themselves. We want to develop and have a community where we love being around each other, and we love enjoying the journey together, and we can express ourselves, and we can pick those up that are battling, and we can be a support system. The gym has done remarkably well, and I think it's just because of our outlook and the way that we see things, and the way that we would want our gym to be.
And it's fairly still new, like.
Look, for a gym that's only a year old, it's done exceptionally well. We're looking to expand, and the expansion we're not in a hurry. We're not rushing the process. We believe that everything will happen the way that it should. We see a future where we building gyms in other countries in the world. I mean, there's a long-term plan, but for now, you just got brick by brick. You've got to can't build a house by having no walls and trying to put a roof on it.
Yeah, you got to build the foundation first, and it starts with the white belts, such as myself.
Well, I mean, I suppose that's but that's a progression, because you remember we started a gym. We had no belts.
Anyone,
we had no belts. The white belts come in, you develop them, they become the blue belts. The new white belts come in, the blue belts help the white belts. We coaching the blue belts. And then as it progresses, it goes to purple and brown. And then all of a sudden you build a school that's got every level in. We're incredibly blessed. We've got 5 black belts in our school. We've got blue belts. We've got purple belts, So in a short space of time, we've got coaches who buy into our ethos and how we see the community. And that just builds strength. And then, we then bringing in the everyday person who wants to learn. We've got youngsters that are 13, 14, 15 that are, exceptionally talented, and we're developing. They want to be competitors. And then you've got young guys who are like 9 and 10 who just want to be involved, and they're learning and growing. And you've got different characteristics and different personalities, and you have to combine all of those, and you have to develop each person, and you have to be understanding of how they see things and how they feel, and you've got to allow them to express themselves, and you open up doors and you teach them different
just
beliefs and different. You just got to give them different things, and the most important things that you need out of it is you've got to teach them discipline and hard work, and if you can teach people that, everything else is possible. Everything else is easy.
But for me, I feel like Coach Titanium is like the more stricter. And then by Thursdays, those classes are more intense in terms of compared to like yours on Fridays. It's sort of like a good cop, bad cop type of vibe, but obviously coming from love, But I feel like she stirs like more of on the stricter side of life. Has she always been that way?
Yeah, Shauna is she's very disciplined in her approach. She's very calculated in the way that she does things, and that just comes of her journey in MMA. She's trying to instill the same disciplines into you guys, and because they're important, they're exceptionally important. You know what I mean? She's exceptionally good at giving you the structures and the discipline and the basics, and developing and molding you to where you can understand jiu-jitsu and then progress.
Implement,
you know, I was exceptionally driven, hardworking, on the mat. You're focused, and you know, as time has gone and I've gone through the journey, it's changed for me. You know, I want to have fun. I want this space to be a fun environment, and I feel that I learn and I teach better when I'm not trying to be a drill sergeant, and I'm more creative and I can give you more. Whereas Sean is creative in being disciplined and structured, and you know, following the rules and following the path that gives her. It's her mindset and it's the way that she teaches. Everybody else is different. We've got different coaches in here that teach very differently, and I think that's one of the fun things. I think it's one of the key factors in why the gym has been so successful is that we've got different mindsets in our black belts, and they see the game differently, and they train differently, and they have different ways of relaying information.
Doing things, yeah.
And we don't try and stunt that. We give the guys the platform to do it. And you know, Shana gives you different things, whereas Lennon will give you something different, and Wade gives you something different. And Tino
Coach
gives you something
Gabriel
different.
also,
and,
yeah.
You know, it's different. You're different outlook, and you get the ability to pick and choose from where you are.
Yeah. I guess the last one. Why the nickname Soulja Boy?
It was given to me by my teammates that I trained with in Durban. My mentality around was that the discipline and the hard work and the focus that needs to go into fighting is the same as a soldier. You must remember that in war, the consequences are great. You die. You make a mistake, you die. So that was the same mentality I wanted to have to my training and to the way that I approached MMA, was that there's consequence, and if you are not perfect, the consequence can be great. Also the discipline around it, and the manner in which you approach it, the way you carry yourself, the way you interact, and the respect that you give other people, and the way that you engage with people, was kind of my outset and my mindset towards fighting. And then the boy part was just, you know, I'm such a playful and fun-loving guy. I never wanted to take the boy out of me, the little boy out of me that wants to joke and play and make fun and play pranks. And, you know, I wanted to make sure that we have this regimented soldier who was just militant and was driven to just be one thing, and then when I was off the mat, I was something else, and then combining the two, and that's how we got Soulja Boy.
Dang. Yeah, I also see it with Gabriel, like how he is, like he's always just like super like hyper and just like always wants to play, you know. I kind of see that aspect of the boy in him. But yeah, man, I think like this conversation was like also just to give you your flowers, you know, in terms of like that you've been a legend in the sport and like what you've done, and everything that you've been through, and like also it's just like I'm super proud to be part of the family, you know, and having to roll with you and everyone at the gym. But yeah, this has been a dope conversation, and thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, man. And thank you for giving me that opportunity to talk about it, the journey and the way I see things. And it's cool, man. I mean, I think there's still a lot to do and there's a lot to come. And we just got to have fun doing it.
Nah, this has been another knockout episode with myself at Garreth, Soulja Boy, Mclellan.